Today, we are becoming obsessed with ease, which is nothing new around here, but we are going to get a bit more specific about what that means. Because on the surface, you might think ease, easy, the words are basically practically the same. They mean very different things. There was a quote I heard once that has really stuck with me that life isn't meant to be easy. And when you accept that, it gets easier. But that doesn't mean you can't build for ease in your life. And that's what we're going to dig into today. And I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, Tiffany Napper, who's a business consultant, keynote speaker, and resilience advocate who helps founders build resilient teams and grow wildly profitable businesses without the burnout. That is the key there, guys. Before she stepped into the world of entrepreneurship and coaching, Tiffany led a successful career in PR, working with icons like Elton John, Alicia Keys, and Disney. But after years of chasing that achievement at the expense of alignment, she has chose to rebuild her life and business from the inside out. And now she is the trusted advisor behind 6- and 7-figure companies that thrive with strong systems, soulful leadership, and powerful team dynamics. Equal parts business tactician and guide, Tiffany is the woman who lights a candle and hands you the playbook. From sold-out masterminds and retreats to her signature Sway framework, she brings both strategy and soul to everything she touches. And I absolutely love Tiffany. I met you, I don't know, was it in May? It's been almost a month or two, somewhere in there. But what I love too is that you really remind us ambition and ease can coexist. And I want to first, welcome to Becoming Obsessed, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and just, sit down and chat with you today.
I want to jump right in and get this part out of the way. You're currently living on a yacht.
I am. It's true. Yes.
How did that come to be?
It's a funny story, but if you know me at all, you know that when I put my mind to something, I kind of go full force. And since I was a young kid, I've loved the ocean. I've loved the water. I'm a Cancer. If you're into astrology, I'm the crab. I'm a water sign. And it was always on my bucket list to live on a boat one day. And I don't really know where that came from. Maybe we can blame Sleepless in Seattle. I don't know. It was just always a bucket list of mine. And I never thought it would come true. And I definitely didn't think it would come true in Nashville, Tennessee, but a lot of things happened. I've been through a lot of loss. I've experienced a lot of loss in the last 5 years since 2020, as a lot of us probably have. We lost my dad 2 years ago. And so my mom and I were just at a juncture where we were kind of deep in some grief. And I rented us a houseboat for Thanksgiving to test the waters, pun intended, and see if we liked the idea of living on a boat. And that parlayed very quickly into me finding a yacht in Nashville, Tennessee that, she could invest in and we would fix up together and could become a future residence for her maybe one day when she leaves where she currently lives, and could become a little bit of a bucket list checklist item for me currently as I go through some change in my own life and just really wanted a fresh environment. I'm sure if you're listening, if you've ever been through something tough, sometimes you just want a fresh environment. You want to change the 4 walls that you're looking at. So that's what I'm doing. And it's been a dream so far. And yeah, she's a 53-foot ocean yacht and on a lake here in Nashville, Tennessee. So she's docked most of the time. We do have to hire a captain to drive her because we're not skilled yet. We'd have to get our captain's license to drive the thing. But just her being in the slip at the marina and waking up every day and seeing the water out all the windows and making my coffee there in the mornings, it's pretty darn magical.
It sounds magical, and your Instagram stories look magical. And I also know that so often we just see that highlight reel on social media, and it doesn't show the loss that led you to making these hard decisions to really pack it up and live on water, or, change and pivot from one career that you've been building your whole life into doing something different. And this is something that I love that you really do share. And we were just talking about a post you had about the soft life and building, like I started this podcast, building a life of ease doesn't mean you're not being ambitious, doesn't mean you're not building big things and doing hard things. Fill me in a little bit more, Tiffany, on how this plays out in your brain and in your life, having a soft life and a life of ease while being really ambitious.
Yeah, I'm always very transparent. I am still in search of a softer life. Okay. I feel like I will always be in search of a softer life simply because of the way I was hardwired. I come from a family of ambitious achievers. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs at some point in their journeys, and working hard was drilled into me at a very young age. And so it's part of my DNA, and I'm not upset about that. I believe that that is what got me here. I do also believe I have room for growth in regards to chasing achievement for the sake of chasing achievement. So that's something I've been learning how to unwire and unlearn for the last, probably since 2017 was when I went on my little eat, pray, love journey of my own and went to Bali and went through yoga teacher training and kind of dismantled my life at that stage to a different stage. So I'm not new to rebuilding my life and trying to seek out the ease and the softness, but I am a continuous student in it. And so for me, it was 2 years ago when the soft girl era started trending on TikTok. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to start like using the hashtag soft CEO era. And it kind of took off. And again, I was just in a season of trying to realign and noticing that I was burning out, that I was doing too much. So I feel like I'm constantly having to make these adjustments. It's like these micro adjustments all the time. But what I noticed when I started sharing about the soft CEO era and just a softer life is that I would have people who were really repelled by this notion because they heard soft and they thought, oh, I'm not soft. I'm a high achiever. I'm tough. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, let's not mistake the two. Like, I believe we can be wildly ambitious and, as you say, like seek ease and the journey. And for me, soft means the opposite of a hard life. I don't know about you, but I'm not signing up for a hard life. But I don't think soft is the antithesis of achieving or ambition. I think they can go hand in hand. And so it's that elusive balance that we always talk about. But for me, it's really more about just softening those hard edges and noticing, like, where can I find some joy in the little moments and where can I hit pause and how can I really trust that this rest right now is just as productive for me as when I'm working the 8 hours. So that's how I'm coming to terms with what it means to embrace the softness in life.
I relate so much to that. And it's funny because I think a lot of times we feel like our experiences are so uniquely us, and they are. But there's also this really cultural shift of, especially for women, having to be tough, growing up. Like, I saw my parents work multiple jobs my entire life, and seeing that and being like, okay, like, I've been able to see that the American dream is work hard to get more, and it doesn't really equate. Like, I haven't actually seen the fruit of that labor in the way it's sold. And I don't think that's unique to me. I think so many of us are like, okay, we do in a lot of ways have enough. Like, I don't need to work as like an American and just work to like store up more and more and more without taking care of myself along the way. And I think we're starting to see more examples of, if you work yourself into the ground, you can't enjoy your life anyways, but really having to deconstruct and, like you said, soften the edges. And that's something I've done too, where it's like, okay, I used to pride myself on being tough. Like, my identity was being tough and strong and never a problem and being able to take care of myself. And that's what you're kind of getting at too, is what if we soften those parts to enrich in our life? And that doesn't mean we're not working hard and building huge things, but it also means that we're not going to work hard at the expense of ourselves. And I will say, Tiffany, this is something that I have a really hard time hanging out in the middle about. And even though I probably am in the middle more than I think, I still feel like when I am taking too long resting, or, I had an 8-hour drive yesterday and I ended up working a little bit, but in my head, I was like, should I just be like resting or playing or enjoying, or like, should I be working because it's downtime? And it's so in our head.
The programming is real.
Yeah. How do you deal with that yourself, but also with your clients, and kind of how everyone's at their own point in this pendulum?
Well, I love what you said because it's so true. We are not alone in this. And so I think even just hearing that everybody struggles with it is a bit of a permission slip for us all to be like, oh, okay, I'm not broken, or maybe I'm not as broken as I thought I was. I don't think I've had a client in the last 5 years who I haven't had to deal with, like help them through this to an extent. And in fact, I have a client who just maybe like in the last 2 weeks DM'd me and she was like, oh my God, this is what you helped me understand. Because before she worked with me, she was really beating herself up about the fact that she would work. She's a makeup artist. She would work a really intense wedding or something where she's on her feet for 12 hours nonstop. And then the next day she would just want to be a vegetable on the couch and watch TV. And she couldn't give herself permission to do that. And she was beating herself up about it. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, why is this such a terrible thing that you need time to refill your own cup after you work an insane amount of hours? And so we had to, over time, dismantle that belief. And so now she just texts me. She's like, I have you to thank for this, because before you, I really couldn't wrap my head around that being okay. And now she, takes those days off with pleasure. And she's actually like hired someone to clean the house on those days and like really given herself permission to just rest. So we're not alone. None of us are alone in this, especially if you identify as a high achiever, as someone with goals and ambition who wants to make something of ourselves. And let's be honest, that's a lot of us. And for me, I find with each individual client and with myself, it's a unique journey to a degree, but it's also a lot of just baby steps. So sometimes that might look like, okay, you feel like right now, like you don't have permission to take a Friday off. So let's take 2 hours on a Friday off and really take it off. Like decide for those 2 hours you are inaccessible and you are not thinking about work and you are not checking emails and you are not, which is really hard to do when you're used to the constant pings and checking, right? So we start with those baby steps and eventually that usually works up to now they're like, oh, I'm taking the whole day off and I do it every Friday. And we call that CEO Fridays in my world, where a CEO Friday can literally be you doing nothing to do with the work, but you filling your cup is you in your best CEO self. You come back to work with renewed energy, renewed clarity. There's a lot of science behind it. And it's the same for me. I'm also still a work in progress when it comes to all that. I've come a long way and I don't beat myself up about it very much anymore at all, to be honest, but that's taken years and years of reprogramming.
I love the way you framed it too, of giving yourself permission. This is phrasing I use a lot, but very specifically, deciding I am not thinking about work right now. That is something I've been very open about struggling with. Is sometimes I feel like I have so much to do without actually having on paper what I need to do that I'm like, I don't really know. Like, I went on a walk and I ate food. Like, I don't know what else to do today. So I'm just going to think about work and open my email and do busy work that doesn't move the needle, doesn't make you more money, doesn't make you happier. And just taking that time to say, okay, I'm not going to think about work. Like, today is a day where my laptop doesn't get opened and no one needs me. And I am deciding to not give that part of my life any space.
It's really beautiful. I mean, now on the yacht, my friend brought me over a bunch of coloring books and markers. So I'll take my coffee and I'll go sit on the front bow of the boat and I'll color. No phone, no nothing, no music, just listen to the birds, watch the ducks fly in and color. And I'm like, who am I right now? But it's really empowering. And I say, if you're really trying to tackle it and you're not sure how, there's a couple of ways you can stack the odds in your favor. One is start with just like little 15-minute walks with no phone, like really figure out how to remove yourself from technology. Another is go to the coffee shop with no computer, which sounds like a crazy idea for a lot of us. Like, don't take your laptop with you wherever you're going next. And another is I use this app called Be Present. And it's kind of like a gamifying. I've tried them all, trust me. I tried the jail box for your phone, didn't work. Like, none of that worked. But this Be Present app really works for me. I set a timer on when I can access a lot of the apps on my phone, including Instagram and email. And so I can kind of like, I started with 7:30 a.m. I'm not allowed to check my email or my Instagram before 7:30 a.m. And then I can inch it further and further into the day as needed. But even that new habit routine for me of not waking up at 6:30 and immediately checking email has been a game changer for my mental health. So stack it in your favor. Figure out what you need. Like, I'm not here to say like I'm strong enough to do this on my own. I need accountability in a lot of ways. And so I look for the accountability in ways that are kind of those tangible things that force my hand a little bit until I can catch up mentally with the idea that I'm safe. I'm okay. I don't need to check my email right now.
Yeah. I have my at least my social media turned off from 9 to 9. And I had to get a separate app, a third-party app to do it because the Apple blockers were not strong enough.
It's too easy. It's too easy to ignore. Remind me again in 15 minutes. So that's too easy. Like I needed something that was much stronger than that to really force my hand.
Well, and what you were saying too about going to a coffee shop without your laptop, I always say when I'm traveling, my favorite thing to do is go to the neighborhood cafe wherever I am and just sit with a pastry and a coffee and people watch. And then I realize if that is my favorite thing to do in other cities, why don't I do that at home?
Yeah, true. It's so true. And it'll feel, especially if you vow not to take your phone out either, that's the real challenge. And it'll feel a little weird at times because I think our technology has become a social crutch for us in a lot of circumstances. But think about all of the opportunities of engagement and smiles and hellos that you're missing out on when you're head down in your phone.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So one piece of this, I say ambition and self-care. I love that you say ambition and ease, is that so often we just see I started with this, see the social media, we see the highlight reel of what a life of ease looks like, of having the successful businesses and doing the speaking and living on a yacht. But I know that that's not your full story or where you started. And I mean, I can relate too that my desire for ease in life comes from a lot of hardship and a lot of really personally trying times. And I know that that is also kind of your story, that there's been a lot of loss and a lot of moments where, you're now kind of known for your resilience and you really incorporate that into your work. But I'm guessing that's not when you got started, or when you were a teenager, what you expected to be known for.
Oh gosh, no. No. And, it's funny. I always tell people, and I'm writing a book that's been in the works for a while now, and that's the real story, right? But in that book, I share, I'm just an average girl who came from an average family in an average small town in North Louisiana. I don't come from privilege, but I'm privileged compared to some. I'm very aware that I'm middle of the road. Okay. My parents got married when they were 17 years old with nothing to their name. And everything that we have now to this day was built off of hard work and a lot of resiliency, a lot of rejection. I graduated college the summer of 9/11. So if you're in that season of any regard, you understand that that was not a good time to get a job. People were not hiring. And so I started off on my professional journey feeling pretty like I had been kicked at the bottom. And even a few years into that, I was 26 years old when I lost everything in a hurricane. I was 27 years old when I lost everything again in another hurricane. And so I really, in my 20s, I feel like I got tossed around and beat up quite a bit. And every time I used to call myself a cat. Like I'll land on my feet, but not without a lot of tears and a lot of stress and a lot of worry. And I never asked for a handout and I never asked for support. And I'm really was like you. I was really proud of being so tough and like figuring it all out, and lived in a garage that was infested with roaches for a little while. And, just like you name it, I feel like I went through it in my 20s. And by my 30s, I landed a corporate job that was kind of a dream job in the music industry, and just worked my butt off, just was determined to prove myself in a very male-dominated industry with no previous music experience, just a lot of heart, a lot of drive. And as a result, found myself sitting in chairs interviewing Elton John, and found myself getting on planes to go pitch a huge idea that I had dreamt up to Amazon, and found myself launching social media for an international brand called Yamaha. These were really impressive things that at the time I just was putting one foot in front of the other. But all that to say, where I eventually landed, even after starting my own business and then starting another business and then starting a third business all at the same time, I landed at what I call like burnout rock bottom. And I just looked in the mirror and I thought, this can't be what it's all about. Like, this can't be what life is all about. And so that was when I went on my Eat, Pray, Love journey, and I decided to kind of scale back. And I would say since 2017 to now, it's currently 2025, which blows my mind. I've been on this constant evolution of following the nudges and following my intuition. And right now, if I'm being really transparent and honest, I haven't shared this with anyone, but I feel like I'm in another shedding season. I feel like what I set out to do 5 years ago, I've done. And I didn't want to necessarily have to make changes this year, but the world around us is kind of forcing us to look in the mirror and say, what's next? What do you really want to be doing right now? And so I feel like I'm in another uncomfortable, very uncomfortable season. And what I do know to be true after all of the years of hardship and overcoming obstacle after obstacle after obstacle is that anytime we find ourselves in the valley, what's next is the rise. So I can sit with that, but it doesn't mean I'm like, happy go lucky. It means I'm sitting with it. It means I'm sitting with it.
Tiffany, I appreciate you sharing that so much because so often, and I'm going to say this by no means meaning you're in failure at all. It's similar where we only talk about our failure on the other side of it when it doesn't feel like failure anymore. And we really only talk about like the resilience and the uncomfortability that we went through on the other side. And I just think it's beautiful for you to recognize and then share with us that I have gone through this for a long time, many times. Here I am again, and it still feels uncomfortable and it still feels hard and I still have resistance. And now I can recognize it and I can work through it and maybe take care of myself a little more, be a little gentler through it, and maybe not fight it as hard. But none of that means that it's not hard and kind of maybe annoying. Like, I know I feel that way. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, I just did 18 months of growth. Can't I have like a 2-month break? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. I share because I do believe, because of what I do as a business consultant, I'm on the inside of a bunch of people's businesses. And I get to hear what a lot of business owners and leaders are also experiencing. And so I share because I know I'm not alone right now. I know a lot of us are feeling like this is a transition season. And a lot of us are like wondering, like, do I hold on tight or do I let go? Do I pivot? Do I change? What do I do? And I will say this, everybody's journey is unique. Like, just because for me, I feel like I'm in a season of shedding and in a season where I'm going to be rebuilding something brand new. Doesn't necessarily mean that I would advise every one of my clients to do that. And it doesn't mean I'm going to step out of business consulting and speaking either. It simply means I am honoring the pull that feels to me like I'm not in true alignment right now for whatever reason. And so I've just learned through a lot of time and trial and error that we can't force the answers. We have to trust the journey. So that's where I am. But yeah, so ask me again in 6 months how I'm feeling and what's going on.
And it's so many of us. And I mean, I don't really talk politics, but it's no secret how I feel about many things happening. But no matter how you feel about it, it is loud, it is divisive, it is in your face. And then you mix on this whole idea of the economy and then the state of the globe, and then just getting through your own day to day. And there's so much happening right now, good, bad, whatever. So much is happening. And I do, in a lot of ways, think that this is another, we talk about 5 years ago, COVID, that was 5 years ago. That was a huge shift. And I do think it's kind of this collective change that we're going through again. And I'm seeing that with the people that I'm talking to. And honestly, for better or worse, I think a lot of us are realizing we have to like take care of ourselves to be able, especially as women, take care of ourselves, put our mask on first, and then look at our immediate community. But it's a heavy thing. It's a lot to navigate while you're just trying to live a good life and keep your relationships and run your businesses and do everything.
All the things. Eat the protein, whatever we're supposed to be doing these days, right? Go for the mental health walk, like all the things. A lot of it does feel a little bit like 2025 messaging all over again, like, but different, very different. I mean, AI didn't, it existed, but not to the extent that it exists now 5 years ago. And we're seeing rapid changes in buyer journeys. We're seeing rapid changes in just so much. So if you're feeling a little unsure of next steps right now, I hope that you're listening to us and you can go, okay, I'm not out of the norm. Like, I'm not experiencing something that's like wildly different from everyone else.
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
But it's funny because as you're saying that, I'm like, okay, so what is it that we then do? To me, I'm like, what is our North Star to kind of look at? All of us have a different journey. All of us have a different answer, whether we double down or we pivot right now, depending on where you're at and what you have and your offer and whatever. So how do we, Tiffany, like, how do you yourself and then help your clients kind of put the blinders up or like stay on their path or just even keep going on any path.
Yeah, really and truly, I do believe this. And it's something I keep asking myself as well. And I do a lot of this work with my clients. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for? And that might, let's say you're a bookkeeping agency and you're like, well, I want to be known for taking the stress of your bookkeeping off of your plate. Okay, but deeper. Like, what do you want to be known for? Because it's not just that. It's deeper than that. One of my clients owns a couple of audiology practices. And so for her, it was kind of buried a little bit already in the vision and mission of the company, which for a lot of us, sometimes we kind of, especially smaller business owners, service-based providers who maybe just have like a small team or a couple of contractors, we don't have like a vision statement on the wall. We don't walk into an office space with like mantras hanging on the wall. Some of us do. A lot of us don't. But now is a good time to go back to that, like North Star, as you called it, of like, what do I want to be known for? And it's not just, oh, I do your social media. Trust me, that's not it. Like, what do you want to be known for? Because no matter what changes in the world, no matter how the systems change, no matter how the tools change, no matter how the world changes, what you want to be known for, you'll always find a way to do it. So what do you want to be known for? And for me, it's like, I do want to be known as the person who empowers women. I do. That's what I want to be known for. So while sometimes that's speaking on a stage and sometimes that's business consulting, I actually found an old notebook because I've been moving my stuff over to the boat. And I found this old notebook. I was flipping through it yesterday. And I ran a PR and branding agency for a decade. So for 10 years, I was in charge of PR and branding. I did PR, traditional and social media. And I opened it and it said something, I'll kind of like riff on it because I remember the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, I love doing PR because I love helping my clients get more exposure to the world. Like I love, sharing their art. At the time I did a lot of music and art. I love sharing their art with the world and giving them an opportunity to make a bigger impression on the world. So it was something along those lines. And I read that and I thought, isn't it funny that what I do now is still very much that same mission of helping people make a bigger impact and get their impact bigger in the world. That's what I do now on stages. That's what I do now as a consultant. That's what I did then as a publicist. So deep down, what you want to be known for. And I would say just go back to it because how you do it can change. Permission granted for that to change.
And your story right there is a perfect example of advice I've gotten as well, is if you're feeling a little bit lost on your North Star, or I'm a little ADHD girly over here. So it feels like everything is shifting day to day. I'm also a woman, our period and cycles. And so some of the advice that I've really gotten is look back. What is the common thread? It's hard to see it in the present. It's hard to see it looking forward, but look back. And like you said, I'm helping more people, more women, get more visibility, make an impact, and grow their lives and help them in their journey to become what they want to become and have what they want, empowering women. And it's hard to sometimes sit here and be like, okay, what is my business mission statement? Like, okay, let's look at Google's. And then I'm like, well,
nobody wants to do that.
No. But like, look back, open your journal, open your notes. I got this really weird Facebook message a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think it was just some like random guy that was like into feet or something. I don't know. It was like a very weird, he was like, I'm in a magazine doing a thing on shoes, send me photos. And I was like, no. But it was somebody I had met when I was like in 8th grade. And so I looked at the last message we had, and it was from when I was like 14, 15. And it was talking about how I wanted to travel the world. And specifically, the first place I wanted to go was Greece. I hadn't had that thought in a decade.
Wow.
But I read that message right around the time that I was either going to, or just got back from 3 months in Europe, a month and a half of that in Greece.
Wow.
And it was this moment where I'm like, if you asked me what I wanted in life, I don't know that I would have been like, when I was little, I wanted to travel.
Right.
And then I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have always wanted to travel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if you don't keep a journal, I mean, I'm a big journal girl. I also recently found a journal from when I was like, I don't know, 12 years old. And I used to spend the summers in Ohio with my grandmother and her family. And anyway, I found this journal where I was beating myself up about the money in my bank account Okay. And when I went through, again, I'll reference that Eat, Pray, Love journey because that was all a lot of my healing work. That was the jumping off point for that. And part of that healing work for me was my scarcity mindset and noticing that I was overworking because I was so worried about never having enough. Okay. So I found this journal from when I was like a child and I had overdrafted like 13 cents or something like this in a bank account. I didn't even know I had a bank account when I was that young. First of all, let me say that. I'm like, oh, props to my parents. But anyway, and I was mortified. I was so disappointed in myself. And the way I wrote about it in my journal, if you would be like, oh my gosh, like don't talk to yourself like that. But man, talk about a reality check to recognize that my money mindset and my wounds around it went farther back than I have no recollection of that. If you had asked me if my life or death had been on the line and you had said, Tiffany, have you ever overdrafted your bank account? I would have said no. I have no recollection of that. I am the opposite of that person. Like my mom's joke was always give Tiffany $1 and in a month she'll have $1.05 because I was a saver. I never wanted to spend my money. So I had no recollection of that whatsoever. So I love that story that you just shared. And I think if you don't journal, start, because even if you think you have nothing to say, it can become such a learning process and so supportive of you, your future self, to be able to look back and say, oh, look how far I've come.
Yeah. They say, they being people who do studies on this stuff, I guess, that you actually form your thoughts on money by age 5, that it is by age 5 you can see, and it's just how the people in your life and really your parents talk and deal with it.
It's the TV shows that the sitcoms that we were watching, like, and it's so many outside voices shaping a narrative that will impact you for the rest of your life. And I'm so grateful that we know more now about that than we did when I was a child. So I think there's more awareness in the parenting around that now, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Something else I know plays a big part in your work and kind of how you show up is the leadership aspect. And I think especially in women-owned businesses, I mean, we look at the numbers and it's less than 12% of women-owned businesses make more than 6 figures, less than 2% make over $1 million. So most of us have smaller teams. We don't always show up and think of ourselves as a leader. Even when you're getting started, or even if you have just a few contractors, what does that really look like in these like 6-7 figure women-owned businesses that you work with?
So what I think is so fascinating about it and the work that I do now around what I call people development, yes, it's leadership skills, but really it's also some people development skills, is that none of us, I speak for myself for sure, and probably 90% of my clients over the last 5 years, none of us started a business because we wanted to be a manager of people. Like, that's not what got us into it. And so, unfortunately, what happens is we kind of find out through trial and error that we're either really good at it or we're really bad at it. And then the opportunity comes to say, okay, well, if I'm not great at it naturally, if I don't have these skills, and let's be honest, a lot of these skills you need to be taught. You don't come out of the womb knowing how to be a great manager and how to motivate people and how to build systems. And like, that's just not normal. So we need to be taught it. We need to learn it. So you get the choice. Like, am I going to learn it? Am I going to step into this? Am I going to allow myself to go on this journey? And am I going to decide I want to be a great leader and a great manager? Or am I going to outsource this? Or am I going to ignore it and then just have a lot of turnover or get frustrated with my team a lot, even if they're contractors, or just churn through contractors, or think, oh, well, I'm just going to hire someone that's in another country. And so it's really affordable. It doesn't matter if they're not as, efficient or goal oriented. And all of those things are obviously not the right answer, but I love it now. I really love it. When I stepped into entrepreneurship and I knew I was going to need a team around me, I knew really quickly what I wanted to model from my previous bosses because I had a decade in the corporate world at that point. So I knew what I wanted to model from my really great bosses, and I knew exactly what I didn't want to model from the bosses that felt a little bit more toxic at times. And even still with that knowledge, it was a journey. Like my first couple of years, I was probably a terrible boss. Now, I do have an intern who's my very first hire, started as an intern, became my first hire. She still sings my praises. I love you, Claire. But I wasn't perfect. I made a lot of mistakes, and I still make mistakes, and I still am constantly evolving and looking at how I talk to my team and how I motivate my team and and how I am a role model for the team. And I have a pretty lean team these days. I've scaled back quite a bit. And still, I think it's so important. But with my clients, a lot of it is some leadership development skills and also recognizing when the team gets to a certain size or you come to a certain crossroads, when we might need to bring in some people development as well to support the leader. Because as the CEO, as the leader, as the business owner, there does come a point where you can no longer be the mentor for everyone. You can no longer be the coach for everyone without it really weighing you down and as a result, becoming a bit of a roadblock for growth.
Yeah. I'm going to bring this kind of full circle. And at the risk of sounding so repetitive, we have talked about these more heavy things that take a lot of effort and a lot of growth and really active work of being a leader and developing your leadership skills and figuring out, okay, do I outsource? How do I do this? And then also navigating the changes that 2025 is bringing and figuring out, okay, it's feeling heavy, I'm shedding, or I feel like these things need to change. Okay, Tiffany, how do we navigate all of that while also, how I say, like ambition and self-care or building ease? How do we deal with all this and don't shy away from it, but still have the soft life?
Well, I actually think that's a pretty easy answer because at the end of the day, yes, like there's a lot of things that we're talking about, but the crucial component to it all is that nobody's asking you to become perfect overnight. Nobody's asking you to figure everything out overnight. By tomorrow, you don't have to have checked anything off of the list of what we just discussed. And I think that's the part that trips us up where we think, oh no, okay, she said I have to be a great leader. And so now you go and you walk away and you go, okay, I'm going to become a great leader. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, no. This is a process. Awareness is step one of the process. So now what would make you a great leader would probably be next week, I'm going to check in with my team and I'm going to ask them how they're all feeling before we go into the nitty gritty, the tactical, the tasks. Hey, how's everybody feeling today? What can I do? How can I support you? That is you being a great leader. And then we go into the tactical part. And then for you to lead yourself well, with ease, with softness, you decide on that day, I'm going to log off at 4:30 and I'm going to go home and I'm going to do whatever, insert the blank, feels good to fill your cup. So for me, sometimes, like I said, that might be I take my coloring book, I go outside and I color for a little while, or whatever that looks like for you. It could be a walk. It could be vegging out, watching Ginny and Georgia on Netflix, personal favorite of mine. It could be anything, but just it's this ebb and sway that I invite you to bring into your life that says, today I can do one thing better as a leader. And I can do one thing better in the department of self-care. And I can do one thing better in the department of inviting more softness into my life. And then tomorrow, I start back at 0 and I do it all over again. And if I do that every day, I can trust that as I put these deposits into these things that matter to me, it's going to all add up to something much bigger than what it feels like in that daily situation.
Well, that's it, folks. That's becoming obsessed. We cracked the code. I absolutely love that answer. And sometimes when I ask questions in my head, I'm like, how would I answer this? Or you kind of start to expect an answer. Or you're like, okay, this is maybe the direction. And what you were saying, I'm like, duh. But at the same time, in a million years, that's not the direction I was thinking. And yet in so many ways, it's also how I try to start to live my life and really have lists that are like, okay, those either one thing or 6 things for the day are checked off. I get to clock out now. I get to have separation now. And so I love that because I'm like, yep, okay, great. Check. Becoming obsessed. This is how you do it.
So good.
Well, I have a few last questions for you. And I really want to kind of stick on this topic when it comes to play and rest and the fun, kind of juicy parts of life. What are you obsessed with?
Okay. Well, I already told you I'm obsessed with Ginny and Georgia on Netflix and coloring. I mean, I'm a diehard yogi, so I'm very obsessed with hot yoga. It really is how I get a lot of my tension out. And it's also where I get a lot of my thinking done. So I keep a notebook. I have a bag that like wraps around my yoga mat. It's my carrying strap. And in that bag, there's a little zipper pocket that has a notebook. And this notebook has been in this bag since 2017 when I went through yoga teacher training. So it's filled with nuggets. But sometimes I'll be in the middle of a yoga class and the teacher will say something, or I'll just think about something in the form of, as we're asking to go into a pose or hold a pose, I'll think about how relevant that is to life or business ownership or whatever. So I keep my little notebook and I'll write something down in it in the middle of yoga class. I have no whatever. Judge me, make fun of me. I don't care. So I'm obsessed with yoga. I'm obsessed with really great coffee, and like my coffee rituals in the morning is really important to me. I've lately been really obsessed with the Merlin bird app.
Okay, love.
Yeah, which is how you can like record the birds around you and learn what bird is making what noise. And it's a really fun distraction and way to start the day.
When it comes to things that are filling your cup, whether they are coaches, podcasts, or even entertainment or other people, what's really filling your cup these days?
Well, what's funny for me is that in this season of my life, I'm really monitoring how much intake I get that's related to anything work of any sorts. So right now, you're not going to find me listening to podcasts about work. You're not going to find me reading personal development books, which I have read a plenty of. You're going to find me listening to fiction books on Audible that have nothing to do with anything related to business and personal development. And the same with TV, like on Netflix, you're going to find me watching movies and TV shows that are very lighthearted because I want the ideas that come to me to feel like my ideas, fresh and clean and inspired from nothing but my own mental capacity. So I'm in a different season right now for sure. And I'm really not making room for a lot that isn't just for pure joy.
I love that answer so much because something that I have also noticed lately is I have my like business podcast that I always go to. I'm usually completely caught up, and I've like last year and the year before, like 23, 24, I got in all the programs that I wanted to be in. I did coaching with the coaches I wanted to. I still am in some of those programs. And I very intentionally, like with the last one I purchased, I was like, and now I have everything I need. Like I still have really great people in my network and mentors and people that you talk to and process. But I kind of feel similar where I'm like, I do not need to learn another strategy, know another thing. I know what needs to happen, and I'm not doing all of it, and that's okay too. But I know what the next thing I need to do is if I'm going to do more. And I literally don't want to know another strategy. Like I'm good. I'm good for now.
I feel the same. I feel the same. And especially in a time like we're living right now, I think the best strategy is have great relationships and do good work. So I'm not sure I need to listen to a podcast about that. I'm not sure you need to listen to a podcast about that. Like do good work, be a good human, nurture the relationships around you. And I promise you that will serve you better than any new funnel hack or hook that you can write. Yeah.
This is something you mentioned in this episode too, is listen to your intuition. Like put more weight on what you think you should do. And then maybe if you don't know how to do it, get help figuring it out for sure. But listen a little bit more to what you think you should do and the direction that your intuition is leading, opposed to what another Sally Sue just made $1 million in a weekend doing. It's like, okay, great. How much did you spend in ads? Like, okay,
yeah.
fine.
And what was our audience? That's what fires me up the most. That's another conversation for another day, but it does fire me up quite a bit. And I was chatting with someone yesterday about my services, and she was like, I've had coaches who in the past have told me to do something that didn't feel in alignment with me or didn't feel ethical to me or, whatever. And I was like, well, I will never be that type of coach. Like, I don't believe there's one way to do it. I don't believe there's one way for you to make $1 million and another the same way for you to make $1 million. I think every business is so unique. Every business owner is unique. You have your own unique skills and challenges. And there's so many ways to create a successful business. And because I've had 5 of them now, I really do know that to be true. So yeah, I feel like, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you need to listen to another podcast or watch another webinar about the exact way to get to XYZ, but you know that there's other things that you could be doing that you're not doing, start with what you could be doing that you're not doing, because otherwise it's just a distraction. You're just filling your calendar with something that feels productive, but is actually a distraction.
Yes, 100%. Stamp of approval, agree. But speaking of, Tiffany, how can people work with you, connect with you, and stay in your world?
Yes, come on over to Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm in my stories all the time. So come find me on Instagram. I'm at Tiffany Napper. I do have a free resiliency guide if you are inspired by the idea of being able to kind of get back on your feet and stay really strong throughout the ebbs and flows of life. Come on over to my website and there's a free resiliency guide. It pops up right when you get to the website so you can't miss it. And you can download that as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I was in Nashville right after I met you and didn't have time to be like, hey, can I come see your yacht? But I know you do these yacht
club. It's a one-day mastermind on the yacht. Yeah.
I'm like, I need in on this. So I'm going to keep my eye out for that as well because I need more of you.
Aw, thank you. I would love to have you. It's going to be magical.
If you're still hanging out with us, let us know. Like Tiffany said, connect with us on Instagram. Both of us are there. And I love a voice note to tell me what you are doing to build a life of ease or to be really ambitious and also take care of yourself, because I need more ideas as well. That's what this is all about, is doing it together, knowing we're not alone. If this resonated with you, then send it to a friend, post it on your story, and give us a 5-star review because it really does help get the podcast to more people so more of us can build a life that we love. Okay, y'all, let's go get obsessed.